Hey guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. This is the She Knows Arsenal post-match podcast, episode 6, and I've named it Beautiful Assist from Kane for Arsenal's third goal. Yeah, we're going to be shameless. We're going to go hard. We're going to gloat. We're going to get all of our flowers because just like Stephen A. Smith said, you may have all these things to say. Oh, Spurs are bad. Arsenal are not that good. If Kane had finished this chance, if this had. I'm here to tell you that we don't care. We don't care. It's the North London Derby. And you know what? I'm tired of this whole thing about we shouldn't be celebrating. We shouldn't be gloating. It's a rivalry. And not only that, it's a rivalry that a lot of people said we were going to get slapped up in because of Son and Kane. And we slapped them. So when that happens and you give it the big and you say that we're in cement, we're a dead club, we're so much better, we have all this quality, our Aubameyang is a Gabonese, a bungalow whore. When you say those things, it comes back and slaps you hard when reality comes and hits you in the face. Spurs are shit, but we were really, really good. And we're going to ride this wind until the end of time. Because for me, as an Arsenal fan, I think we take too much time trying to analyze games and we take the soul out of the game. The point of being a fan is riding the roller coaster. And yes, on a podcast or something like that, you're going to analyze it and kind of be more balanced. But ultimately, the fun of being a fan is being able to just live in a win for a while. And this is one that we should live in because it's against our North London rivals, a team that a lot of people are saying are way better than us, have taken our spot in the top 4. I'm sorry, they're shit. And we're going to talk more about that today. There's about 40 of you guys watching on all platforms. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about Tottenham. And I'm going to bring in my panel right now. Souls and George. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Let the gloatathon begin. No, it's joking.
No,
but really,
no,
though.
not joking. No, facts. No, we're gonna do this shit because I've seen a lot. Yeah, I'm not even shameless. I've seen a lot of crap on the timeline from rivals, from other people right now about trying to paper coat what went down kind of on the weekend. And you know what's crazy? We predicted a lot of this crap. So yeah, you know what? When it happens and it comes out in the exact storyline that really we predicted, you best believe that we're going to come back and give you a good helping of I told you so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, the soul is just not there anymore. There's too many people that are just concerned about being right and all of that kind of stuff. And one thing about seeing the scenes like in the Emirates, and I think there's a different atmosphere in Arsenal than online. I think fans in the stands, fans at the Emirates, they have a different feeling about the game and they back the players and stuff. And it's not about agendas. It's not about this and that. Even I know Igal went the other day, and the elation on his face, like when we were winning 3-0, was exactly what fans that are online need to feel. And it's hard because when you live in the United States or somewhere else, you can't really feel that. But I just feel things are starting to change around Arsenal Football Club. And what we see online is not indicative of the club. And so when we say we're happy about a North London, rivalry win, we should be happy. Online Arsenal is not the same. And I think if you look at the scenes in the stands, you could see that this meant a lot, not just to the fans, but to Arteta and the players and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating it. There's really nothing wrong with it. I mean, Souls, don't you think that there's a little bit too much reluctancy to be excited about things that we should be? I mean, we're fans at the end of the day. We should just kind of enjoy the win, even though we know it's not the end all be all. And, we're not back. But shouldn't we just live in it for a little bit and not overthink it?
100%. I don't give a shit. I'm the most shameless fan there is because we took a lot of shit going into this. We've taken a lot of shit at the start of the season. Where's your goals going to come from? Pre-season, you can't score goals. You guys look so poor, right? Yes, we all overreacted. Even as a fan base, we overreacted. That actually, is there some truth to this? And there is a section of the fan base, such as George, who actually stuck by and said, no, you know what? When the spine returns, you'll start to see things. I overreacted. I admit that. But we've seen it in 3 games now, what he's trying to do. when he has his players. Live in the moment, celebrate it. What the fuck is the point of being a fan when you've just beaten your rival 3-1? You spanked them. Forget about, beating them. We could have beaten them 1-0, but we spanked them. We schooled them. No, Arteta, he's got no experience. Yeah, he's beaten these experienced managers. He's beaten Chelsea. He's beaten City. He's beaten Liverpool. He's beaten City when it mattered. He beaten Chelsea when it mattered. And then he beat Liverpool again when it mattered in the Community Shield. I'm not saying that people care about the Community Shield, but Klopp definitely wanted to win that just to have another accolade under him. And he's doing it. When he's got his spine back, he's won a game. He's spanked him. He's schooled them. We've seen against Norwich where we had a good attacking display. We just didn't convert our chances. Burnley, we've seen a good defensive display when we had a moment of brilliance from Odegaard and we won that game. Again, we've seen both come together this time. Not only did we see a brilliant defensive performance from Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Ben White, from Gabriel and Tierney, but we've seen one of the most brilliant displays of football I have seen in a very long time at Arsenal Football Club. This was Wenger ball at his finest. This was sublime football, and I am going to celebrate it because for too long, we've gotten so much shit for backing the club and saying that, no, just give it time. Things are going to come together. I'm not even going to lie, right? I actually got emotional after the game. Off camera, I got emotional because I was like, finally, people are starting to realize what this guy is trying to do and why sacking him is actually more detrimental to the club than actually keeping him. And it was just that moment of relief, like, finally, Arteta, finally, you've done it. Not against a Norwich, not against a Burnley, not against a Brighton, not against a Palace, but a team. Look, you know why they're getting this disrespect? Because we beat them. Do you know if this was Man City doing it, the story would have been different. Do you know if a Liverpool did this, the story would have been different. Oh, yeah, but they got beat by Palace. But when we're screaming the top of the league, they're going to get top 4. Harry Kane's the professional. Son is amazing. And now all of a sudden they're crap. They weren't pressing, but we just beat their press.
You know what, though? I've seen this pattern over and over again, with and Spurs are shit. And we'll talk about it, the balance of how good we are and because, they were wow. But every time we beat a team that people go big on, that other team is going to do something. It's always an excuse about why they lost. When we beat Man City in the semifinals going to the FA Cup, we bunkered down, we parked the bus, and, they had a million shots, and had just one of those gone in, it would have been a completely different game. Played against Chelsea in the FA Cup final. They just weren't up for it. Lampard tax. We beat Chelsea again in the league. Oh, just Lampard tax. No way. It's just youthful exuberance. Yeah, it's just every single Manchester United. Oh, well, Gabriel should have had a red card. I mean, it happens every single time. And I think it's just going to continue to happen as long as we're in a rebuild, which we are. And I think as Arsenal fans, we just have to kind of stick together. We know that this is longer term. That doesn't mean we're going to get top 4 now, but nobody's ever going to give us the credit that we deserve because they like us in the mud. They prefer it. So every time we win a game, it's going to be met with doubt. And that doesn't mean that some of their concerns aren't correct. I do think that we can't say that we've completely turned a corner yet. I think some of these next games will kind of confirm it for us. But they're always going to have excuses, right? But we know what we saw. We know what we saw. We saw a really shitty Spurs team that was not shockingly bad. They've been bad the entire season. The idea that they were good and they were top 4 challengers, that was absolute shit. They were terrible. They had Kane, and now Kane is laying in bed texting Pep asking can we be together again? Is there a chance for us to get back together because I want that transfer? That guy doesn't want to be at your club. Get real. That's all you really had was Harry Kane and Son. Son can't do it on his own. Everything behind them is dog shit. And we exploited that. And it's not just, we just happened to get it. We walked you. And we were good.
Do you know what that excuse of the opposition shit, they're never up for it? What is it? Are you just that scared of Arsenal that you just can't turn up before the game even started?
But Souls, that's the thing.
That narrative baffles me because it seems to be the same things being said over and over again. I just think we terrify them.
No, that's the thing, Souls, because the fact is they don't want to sit down and admit that we are a big club, and we are. This notion that we're not in the top six, it's people spiting their face, really, just to save themselves, really, at this point. Because really, when you look at Arsenal and the project, and people facetiously in our own fan base saying, "What's the process? What's this? What's that?" There's a reason why yesterday was so exciting, and there's one hat where, as a fan, yeah, you're gonna go overboard, of course. We're allowed to. That's fans. That's the difference between us being a fan versus a commentator on a sport or on a team. That's the difference very well. But on the other hat, this was literally a proof of concept against what many considered a good team, using the exact same system, exact same philosophy, and using it to such a good effect that really I haven't seen a smacking like that since the Chelsea 3-1 in terms of us dusting a team that everyone considered very well from a top four challenge. And by the way, the same freaking formation that I've been spewing that we've been doing. We didn't do anything different. We absolutely held the exact same game plan. And look, when you got a spine in the team, shock, horror, it works. And in fact, it doesn't just work, it excels. And so there's a little bit of I told you so in one aspect about looking at structure and how we can replicate this, because that's what's really exciting from a fan standpoint. But on the other hand, rivals and everyone trying to kind of poo-poo the importance or what really this showed for people, I think it's kind of lunacy, because the idea that Spurs were just crap and we just took advantage of them is BS. If you look back at that game, the biggest thing I've seen from rivals are saying that, oh, Spurs left so much space in the midfield, that's why you guys were good. No, we beat their press. The reason that we were so good was that they were trying to be a Liverpool light. They tried to force, and we were excellent in build-up, taking them out. For example, the second goal. If Granit Xhaka loses that ball in terms of him getting in, the narrative switches, and boom, Spurs had a great game plan, and they were pressing from the front. Arsenal were naive, and then no one is talking about who is marking Emile Smith-Rowe, by the way, who receives in the middle of his own half, and then is bursting beyond Davinson Sanchez in order to get the cut back to Auba. So if you really want to talk facts about who did what at that game, be truthful, be objective. At the end of the day, Arsenal absolutely didn't just take the win because it was given to them. They played for it, they executed, they were efficient in the attack, and they were good in all the ways that we want to be good. So I'm really tired of hearing kind of the narrative that, we got to temper expectations, because no, this was a great win where the system and the idea excelled. Now, why is that important? Because that means that we can now replicate this. We've been doing this the entire season. And if you see it against a very good team, okay, that means that it's likely to be sustainable. If I had seen a different system, I wouldn't be as excited. Realistically, because then I'd say, oh, you know what, he changed it for a specific opposition. I haven't seen him replicate this. No, we had a 2-3-5, a 3-2-5 buildup, a 4-4-2 press. Guys, we've been doing this for the past couple months. And so for me, I'm just very excited. I hope people can see what maybe I was trying to contextualize in the past in terms of what we can see going forward. But I think it's fine for fans to enjoy a day in their sun when they absolutely deserve it. I think that's literally the point of half of being a fan, rubbing the nose into it of your rivals when they do poorly or they do well. This idea that we're just going to be objective when it comes to Arsenal, it just comes back to a lot of the hatred for Arsenal, period, I think. And really the bias towards seeing us fail or lose. I really think it stemmed down to kind of within our history for quite a while, to be honest with you, in terms of what Arsenal represented. They were always the foreigners, in a sense, and they were always targeted for their success. This has always happened within our most successful periods. What just annoyed me was really the fan acceptance and the self-deprecation from our own fan base when you kind of flip it on its head and you realize now, you know what, maybe those first three had a little bit of context.
Yeah. Well, maybe I was listening to TalkSport and Sky Sports try to make a mockery of our transfer window. And yeah, you could have wanted different players. But the idea that we had the absolute worst window and Ramsdale was the worst goalkeeper they'd ever seen, and Tomiyasu's not a right back, and Ben White is shit, and all of this, it was just going too far. And not to say that we won't come back in a year or so and say, okay, maybe we need to upgrade on this. Maybe it's this and that. But ultimately, I think we need to trust what we're seeing and not worry about what other people say, because they're never going to give us the credit or whatever. We are in a long-term rebuild. with a young squad. So we're not expected
the youngest in the league, Jess, by the way.
Yeah, we're not expected to. And this is another thing that I want to say before we get on to the actual game is we're going to lose. Mm-hmm. We're going to lose games. And losing games doesn't mean that we're not going in the right direction. And I know it's coming. We've won 3 on the bounce. And between Aston Villa, Brighton, and Crystal Palace, I think, and Leeds, there is a chance that we may not get the results that we feel like we should get. And we'll talk about towards the end of the show. I feel like it's important to talk about what we need to see that's not really just about the results. Because I know what people are going to do. They're waiting for the next loss to go back into that narrative. They're hiding right now.
To say I was right.
Yeah, it's so freaking funny how the timeline is quiet now. Mm-hmm. It's actually quiet. It's more quiet than it was when we lost to Manchester City, lost to Chelsea. Very quiet because they're in their holes, just waiting for us to lose a game. And we have to know what is the barometer or the bare minimum that we need to see, even if we lose a game, to let us know that we're still going in the right direction. Because it's coming, and I want us to be clear about what that line is. Because I think there is one. Would you agree? You know what I mean? There's got to be something.
I only bring up the past because I feel like on this channel we were split about the project and like the process. Yep. And I was very clear about like what are we going to distinguish as a line for barometering. Like, I mean, for me, it was 10 games. And I don't think everyone has to have the same thing. But for me, what it was is at least 5 games with a starting 11. Do I see not just improvement in results, but like you, just improvement in performance in terms of we may not get exactly 5 wins, but I need to see the fact that we're creating chances, that really we were dominating control and spacing, build up. I don't have to see a win, but I want to see control because we have the players to do it. When you see those things, I believe you can kind of critique a manager for having what he needs or what he doesn't. Because in my opinion, a manager has to have at least had 3 big spine recruits. And what I mean by that is you've got 2 center backs, a goalkeeper, an attacking midfielder. You want basically a technical leader in each third that he has to recruit. And in my opinion, whether I agree with it or not, Odegaard was recruited by Mikel. So boom, you've got your technical leader in the attacking third. In midfield, he's recruited his midfield leader, which I happen to agree with subjectively, Thomas Partey. Now, in defense, he's recruited 2 center backs completely in his mold, and a right back now, but still, he's got those 2 in the spine, which I agree with. And then finally, the goalkeeper. That is totally in his vision. So for me, does he have an excuse to rest on laurels? Absolutely not. You've had 3 to 4 major spine additions, not really auxiliary positions, but spine additions. So that's your team now. That's where I draw the barometer about whether a team is that manager's or not. For me, they must have 3 minimum purchases across the spine. Then that's your team. Now, after that, when you're asking me what's the difference between performance, well, for me, you need to have at least 10 games within a season. You need to have at least 5 of those be with your starting 11, or at least more than 2 players, I guess, in your spine that are missing. I think you can throw away that match. That's what my personal barometer is. If I see more than 2 players in the spine unavailable through injury or whatnot on a team that has such low quality as ours, I think that's detrimental to our team. In fact, we see it with Liverpool when it's not just 1 or 2 players, right? Like when it's more than 2 across your spine, when you don't have Van Dijk, when you don't have Salah, like that team will crumble. And it's not to say that they're a shit team. It's just that they are their leaders in their spine and in their team. So of course that means that they're going to play poorly. So that's just my personal barometer. I think you need 10 games. I think you need to see at least 5 games with your starters. And then you go by based off performance. If you don't dominate in at least 60 to 70% of those matches, then absolutely, for me, you deserve questioning. Because then that's no longer a coincidence. That's not a run of form. That's not...
It's a pattern, yeah.
It's a pattern. And so that's personally my barometer. But it could be different for everyone else, right?
Yeah, and it's important to distinguish it because at this point, we're getting into an important run of games where I feel like this will be a lot... Now that we've kind of seen what the team looks like with Arteta's players in it, and they've performed to a level that was so impressive that you can't go back from that now. It's important to know what we need to see moving forward because I still think Arteta is in a weird spot. I still think he's in a spot where a couple of bad performances and we're back where we were before. We have 3 losses and 3 wins. That's not definitive or anything like that. So I just feel like it's an important conversation to have. But Souls, what I want to ask you is just kind of going back to the game is the partnership of Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka. Before the game, a lot of people were furious that Granit had come back into this team. I was very vocal about saying that I knew for sure he was going to come back into this team. If Granit is fit, he plays. It's just period like that. And Xhaka is more of a liability to me in terms of his ill discipline and agility, not necessarily what he does in terms of footballing IQ. And his partnership with Thomas Partey is quite strong. And I think we saw that in the game yesterday. I thought he had a phenomenal game. Do you think that midfield pivot, although I think all three of us are pretty, got to upgrade on it, do you think it's underrated in the Premier League? We haven't seen it very often, but when we have, it's looked very, very strong. Do you think it's underrated in comparison to like the Jorginho Contes, the higher level pivots? I mean, let's be real, McTominay and McFred or shit, whatever their names are. Them together is nothing like Granit and Partey. But do you think that it deserves more credit? It's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's decent at times. It's just Xhaka's the liability, but for me, I think it's all right. It's not the worst. I still think Xhaka needs improving on, just more on the athleticism kind of standpoint, just a bit more agility, or just someone because he has got the qualities of a very good player, but it's just certain things in the Premier League are just fundamental, and that's being an athlete, and he's just not quite that mold for the Premier League. But if he went to, let's say, the Serie A, if he went into La Liga or Bundesliga, where there is a little bit more space, there is a little bit more time on the ball, and you're not getting as pressed, because the Premier League is relentless. You get pressed all the time, and you need to be quick on your feet, but not also that. Your footballing IQ's got to be good, but you've got to have the physical build-up to actually get out of those situations. And we've seen it yesterday, actually. He finally got a turn on Højbjerg when he came in on him, and he came in tight. He managed to use his strength for actually the better. But then even in that game, we had two moments. I'm not saying they're red card moments, but because it's Xhaka, that could have easily been red cards. If you had just mistimed, let's say the double tackle, if he had just got the player or you caught the player on that, he could have got sent off. And then what he did on Ndombele was just not needed. It's just he does some stuff that I just don't think you need to do this. Like you can get yourself into trouble because of your reputation more than anything, and that's all it is. But in terms of as a pivot, Xhaka allows Partey to do what Partey needs to do, which is be that ball carrier, to be a bit more advanced, to allow him to build and transition into the attack. Xhaka will occupy those defensive areas. He allows Tierney to thrive and be more attacking and be a bit more forward-thinking, because he'll occupy that left-hand space and cover for the likes of Tierney. And he does it. The thing is, he does good, but then it's those little moments that actually ruin everything. And I said it on the watch along, and I was saying it on the preview as well. Granit Xhaka, when he needs to make an apology, is one of the best midfielders in the world. Honest to God, when he's got a red card,
scandal Xhaka.
Yeah, like yes. honestly, he is one of the best midfielders I have ever seen, because it's just like, I don't know what happened to him. He was a man possessed yesterday, and that's, if I was sitting and I was talking to Granit Xhaka as a fan, I'd be like, that's what I want to see. That's all I want to see from you. I just don't need you to get into these stupid battles, these stupid tackles, these stupid fouls that you give away. Just do what you did yesterday. That's the benchmark for him, because he worked his socks off. He was making excellent tackles. And you know what? He was crucial for 2 goals. That's the thing I didn't realize. When I watched it back, even the first goal, he was actually crucial to it. Because he started that move, and then obviously he started the second one. We all know that was so obvious. Without him, it wouldn't have happened. But I didn't realize the first goal started from him. Yes, and there was Odegaard there as well. But
said the same on the post-match, Souls.
Yeah, and it was just mad. Like, I was like, you know what, actually, and I said it, he was phenomenal, and he's had his best games with Partey. But my only problem with him is he's not as pressure resistant as I would like him to be. That's my only qualm with him. But that's what we're saying. We want someone in that Xhaka mold that has a bit of agility, that has the athleticism, that's a bit more pressure resistant, and that's it really. And we do need to upgrade on that if we want to aim for top 4, because someone like a Basuma, what he allows you to do, he can general that midfield on his own. Whereas with Xhaka, I still think there's parts of his game that don't allow him to do that, and we're kind of stuck with this 4-2-3-1. Whereas with a Basuma or a Gumaraysh or a Kamara or someone of that mold, what they allow you to do is go into a more 4-3-3 structure, a bit more, and it can allow Partey to advance a bit more forward and actually be a body at the front with the likes of Odegaard and just build those numbers up top. But that's it, really. But I mean, like I said, I've never said he's a bad player. He just doesn't fit the Premier League for me.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of meat to this bone because I've said for so long that Granit Xhaka represents what we have to move on from in order to be successful. But at equal tokens, he absolutely is an excellent player within a pivot with Thomas Partey that is among the best in the league. Both of those things.
That's the shade of it, isn't it? That's deep.
Yes, deep. and so like that, both things are true. And so while he's absolutely among those that are the least of our problems, he's actually the top of the list if we want to get anywhere in terms of where we want to switch to in profiles. Okay, so both of these things can be true with Xhaka. And look, he does things that have limits. I think he has an athletic ceiling that limits this team's ability to really take the next step up. That's true. Yeah. But his on-the-ball qualities, and actually, you know, when you look in that first 34 minutes, would I surprise you if he only had 12 passes? Every single one of those passes were absolutely immense. It was actually Thomas Partey that took progression, which I'm happy about. But, you know, this idea that he just spams passes isn't true. In fact, his role yesterday was a lot higher up than many people realize. If you actually go back and you do a rewatch, he was actually operating much more in an 8 position like he does with Switzerland.
And Odegaard and, just really quick, Odegaard and Xhaka were like almost like 8s, and Thomas was a little bit deeper. And
at times,
I think that kind of pulled Ndombele and them out of position, which made the midfield more open for Emile Smith-Rowe to get the ball. I thought that was really good tactically.
There was a ton of fluidity, but really what happened and what I noticed was with Gabriel and White so athletic in terms of pressing so high up the pitch, your midfielders didn't have to hang out at center back to cover an onboarding Tierney. In order that dynamic, you didn't see that necessarily as much. Tomiyasu was really the 3 in the 3-2-5 instead of Granit, who we've seen. And he was allowed to be a lot higher up. Why? Because we have technical security in the back line. And so when I kept saying that, I guess, you know, buying defenders, does that improve your chance creation? I mean, absolutely. It's not a direct link that many people are used to, but it was the fundamental difference for allowing these guys to play a lot higher up. So I think with Granit, just to maybe tie it on a bow, I don't think anybody here loves that profile long term. That's not what people are saying. But to ignore his valid objective performance, I think, in the league with Thomas Partey, and in terms of how that compares to others in the league, I think is foolish, because I really don't think that pivot has actually been beaten on more than 4 or 5 occasions when they started together. It really is a great pivot, but you recognize the limitations and you recognize about where that can take you. And if you want something different, that can be true as well. But you got to give props where props is due, because in my opinion, I know we had some callers who disagreed and felt he struggled. I thought he was among the best players on the pitch, particularly in the press. And like we said, and even in the post-match, he was responsible for 2 of those goals starting off. And, you know, he was very crucial to that. And of course, Emile. I mean, Emile was my specific man of the match. But Granit starts those. Granit starts those attacks, and he does the key passes that really release your Emiles, that get that one-on-one. So, yeah, he's an important player. I think we can just agree to maybe disagree in terms of his current level on some people, but you just got to recognize his value to the team. And a team, by the way, that lacks leaders, because as much as you want to say in terms of his off the ball, people rely on this guy to really receive and have a pressure valve in bad situations. You know, I don't like that particularly, but it's just the fact of our team. It's the fact about where we are right now. And so I just don't think it makes any sense to kind of hammer him for his limitations when we don't do that for, say, a Thomas Partey and our other faith players.
For me, right, I think his limitations aren't going to be seen as much because of the spine that we've now built in terms of Gabriel, White, and obviously Tomiyasu, because what we've had before is players who couldn't capitalize or recover, you know, Xhaka's mistakes. But now we've got for example, if Gabriel and White are fit, we've got 2 players who can definitely see the danger and actually can mark for that and obviously recover for that. So I think what we're going to start to see now is, like, even though Xhaka's still going to have those mistakes in him, but we're going to now be able to cover them.
Yeah, the thing is when you shrink the pitch, he has less room to be exposed, and he can be more useful to you because he's a good presser. He's good at getting from sideline to sideline. It's because at some points he was on the right, he was popping up on the right, he was popping up behind Tierney to cover him, but we were only playing in half of the pitch, and that shrinks that distance. And what happens with Granit is when we're doing the basketball and we're so far back, we're basically sitting on our, basically at the top of our box, and he's meant to go from box to box. That's when you have to just kind of let him sit in front of the defense, because that's where his limits really come in. And when he's exposed, he makes bad decisions, in transition and things like that. So I think
I'm also just really quickly not a fan of what it does to Partey and his role within the midfield when you have a Xhaka type, because it has implications where Thomas isn't necessarily the progressor. He isn't always the one a little bit more advanced, where in my opinion, that's where I see him best. In terms of Partey's best individual performances, those for me were United, Chelsea, where El Neni started, and we had that type of facilitator for him. But that doesn't mean that those pairs and that controller type can't work with Thomas. He's a world-class player. I think he looks good next to anybody, but I think you get the best versions of those individual players with slightly different profiles. That's all where I stand on it. But I think together, you can't not admit, even if it's not your subjective eye liking, you got to admit that the production of those two is elite.
Yeah, let's talk about because you kind of started in with the Smith Rowe conversation, and we had a little chat in our group chat about Smith Rowe, what his ceiling is, and all that kind of stuff. That's not something that we really need to sit here and debate and stuff, because ultimately nobody knows what his ceiling is, but we all know that he's a really, really good player. But what I like about him is he's a very interesting profile, and I think we all kind of knew that if you could get Saka and ESR shooting and scoring, then you have something interesting in your front line. I still think Emile Smith Rowe has so much more to give. I think he could potentially end up being, an 8, a true 8, playing next to Thomas Partey and somebody else, and in a midfield 3. I think he can play off of the left. He can play 10, which is great, But yesterday what he showed was maturity. I think he knew his role and he executed it to perfection, quite similarly to what he did in the 3-1 win against Chelsea. One of his biggest strengths for me is his ball carrying ability, and he made really good decisions when he got into key moments, which inevitably ended up with he had an assist and a goal. And I just like to see him flourish because I think he works really hard. I really do, and I think he wants it. And it feels different when your Hale-End kids are the ones that are getting the goals and the assists and stuff like that. I likened him to some sort of combination of KDB and Jack Grealish, and that's not, he's at their level, but in terms of his play style, I think he's flexible enough to do both, something similar to that. And that's a scary proposition. You said that, George, you said that he was your man of the match and stuff like that. Do you want to just heap some praise on Emile Smith Rowe and the maturity that he showed, in this game, which is something that we needed, right?
Yeah, this kid.
Say it loud and proud.
This kid. Okay, look, the ceiling of this kid is crazy. I've said in the group chat, amongst all of our Hale-End youngsters, I think he has the highest ceilings in terms of potential about what he could be. And it's just because of how scary the group of skills that he has. Like you said, Jess, he's a modern player. 10, 8, put him left wing, pseudo 10, whatever you want. That boy will give you end product and impact on the game. He affects every single phase of play. But what I really liked was yesterday for me was a standout performance in terms of authority. You talk about running in behind. I agree, he does a ton of work, but I feel like they're always facilitator type moves. Yesterday, he was authoritative in terms of saying, give me the ball, I'm going to make things happen, and I'm not just going to set you up, I'm going to hurt you. And it was very, very specific about the movement. Him dropping in to kind of receive the layoff with Aubameyang. I've seen him do that before. I really have. What I didn't see was the maturity of slowing down a bit and then releasing the ball to Aubameyang at the exact same spot. I saw him take people on and just cross kind of, up in the air before. But no, that was deliberate. That is a playmaker. That is you saying, I belong as part of the team. And you know what? It wasn't just that play. It was kind of consistently, I felt him demanding the ball and demanding ownership, not hiding. Before, I always felt like, I'm really just happy to be here and I'll facilitate you. Like, that's the kind of vibe I got. I'm like, mate, just come on, take the ball to them. Like, you have so much more. you can be that guy. And I just felt yesterday was a coming of age for him, really, in my opinion. You talk about how it was the best day of his life. I feel as though Emile Smith-Rowe, he's not quite an introvert in terms of his play. He's very extroverted, but he's been playing like an introvert. He's been playing like a guy that was just called up. And I just saw for the very first time really attack space. Like the authority in his play was really the biggest difference that I saw, because he looked to get himself on the ball. He participated, like you said, in defense. By the way, his kind of tracking back of players was what we missed at Chelsea. Like in the first half, when you look at it, there were times he's by the byline, at our own very half. And, if he was really the only one doing that with Chelsea, I'm like, oh God, maybe a different result happens. But again, I just think in terms of looking at his performance yesterday, it was one of those first highlighted performances that we were robbed of, of last year where he hit the crossbar. I thought, oh God, that's your kind of I'm here moment. But you know what? He got it yesterday. I'm just so happy because I think this kid could be anything he wants to be. Like you said, Jess, in terms of the overlapping, he's got really no weakness for me in the final third, beyond maybe a final ball. And you know what? Those are things that I see signs of him improving on. And really, we just need to wait for his physical development, because for me, he still is in a child's body in a sense, and like his mind or his body hasn't caught up with what he wants to do. There's very many times that you can see him, really want to take up that cross, but he just doesn't have the facilities for it yet. And I'm very scared about what could be in a couple of years, because I know that there's really something coming. And the confidence that he'll take from this, like I said, he's finally no longer the academy kid that's been brought up. He's a first team member. He has contributed in a decisive moment and ridden himself in folklore, in my opinion. You really are the man of the match of that derby. You write your own story from that point. You're no longer just somebody that's helped us out.
Yeah, Souls, do you want to kind of piggyback on George and talk a little bit about, Emile Smith-Rowe's kind of influence on that game? And not only that, how him and Odegaard create a set of 10s that really facilitate our attacking play. I think they come really well in a pair. I think when you're missing one of them, you're missing a little something. Do you think that yesterday kind of showed that the pair of them really gives us a nice little platform for the team, in terms of attacking, but also for Aubameyang, somebody that really needs that facilitator, that he needs a couple of 10s in behind him?
Croydon De Bruyne. That's all I'm gonna say. Like he is the Croydon De Bruyne, right? Like the thing is, this kid is phenomenal. Like his talent is just he's one of those with, like Saka, that can go anywhere. Wherever they want to take their careers, they can take it. They want to be world class. They want to win the Ballon d'Or. They want to win the Champions League. They can go do it. They are that good. They've got that potential. All they need to do is realize it. And I think Saka's realized it a lot earlier. And he realized that, no, he belongs in this team. This is his team. ESR's getting there. ESR's starting to realize I'm no longer the guy that was called upon at Chelsea, and it's just in there because he might be thinking we got lucky against Chelsea and we beat them. That's why I'm here. But now he knows this is his team. Like, this is why I kept saying to people, forget about everything. Just look at the way this team celebrated the Burnley win, the Norwich win. You will see how crucial that is in the North London derby. They fight for each other. They're there for each other. This is no longer a team. This is a family. That's what I see. They've got each other's back. Did you see when Ramsdale saved Kane's shot, the way Tomiyasu came up to him? This is a team that wants this manager to succeed. This is a team that is now buying into what this club wants to do. This is a team, right, that is now playing for each other. They don't bust that gut to get to that ball, to make that thing happen if he didn't want it, if he didn't feel like he belonged. The decision making, even the way he took his goal, it was brilliant. This is all we're saying, that once ESR Saka add goals to their game, we will no longer need Pepe in this team. That's all we're missing, is that consistent output in goals. Not necessarily chance creations, because that's there in an abundance. But we're now starting to finally see the puzzles come together. And ESR for me, and with because what Odegaard allows you to do is be creative from deeper. He drops in deep, helps out that midfield, and brings the ball from deep. That allows ESR to do what he's very good at, which is create from the front. And now it's no longer that ESR needs to create from the back, take it from the likes of Xhaka or Partey, and create from there, and then bust a gut to make sure he's then receiving the ball again further forward to then create again, because he knows, right, okay, let me control the tempo, because that's something we know ESR hasn't been able to do, is control tempo, slow the game down or speed the game up. That's not something he's good at. That's what Odegaard excels in an abundance. He can control the game. He can dictate, and that's what he did yesterday. He sped it up when he needed to, slowed it down when he needed to. ESR then took that initiative to create from the front. He created so many opportunities. Aubameyang could have scored again, to be honest. He could have had 2. There was a ball from, like, Odegaard from deep, about, I think, from Partey. If the control was better, that could have happened. And this is what now we've got. We've got not only someone who can create from deep and can drop in deep from that number 10 position, like an Ozil, someone who can just dictate the game, make it his. And then ESI is someone who just, it is beautiful. This is the thing, right? And I got so much shit because I was like, no, ESR needs to play over Pepe. Like, he has to. Pepe needs to be dropped. And people are like, no, but where's the goal coming from? There you go. Not only did Saka and ESR finally, like I said, give me the redemption. Gave me the redemption I deserve. Yeah, they fucking gone and scored. And then assisted. They're both assisted.
How ironic is the question of the 2 Hale End talents of attacking efficiency when that was the epitome of the game? Like, in terms of narrative of that game, each one got 2 goals and assist each.
I think
they start our season last season.
Yeah,
they've done it again. People doubted them. They're like, Saka looks like he doesn't want to be here. Saka looks like he doesn't believe in the manager. He doesn't. And then he goes and scores. Brilliant.
Well, I think this leads us perfectly into the Saka Pepe conversation. I think it's important. It's an important one to have. In our little group chat this morning, and I want to read out this comment really quick. Lord Gunnar says, to be honest, Saka doesn't need to add goals to his game to be impactful, as proven in the Norwich and Burnley game, and that kind of sets the platform for this. I hate to be like this, but it's kind of like that I told you so moment where on this channel, being accused of being a Pepe hater because you want Saka to play, I think has been justified in that game, because now with the goals there, you can see why Smith Rowe and Saka need to start and why we shouldn't be shoehorning Pepe into the team because we need goals. We were kind of talking about it in our group chat, and I think the more macro conversation for this is I want to see what the club is going to do. Saka has nailed down this position. I would bet my whatever on Saka playing right wing as long as he's fit. Like a very much a Xhaka situation. If he's fit, he plays. Yeah. And even if he's 80%, we might go ahead and put him there, because an 80% right wing Saka is probably better than 100% right wing Pepe. Let's be real. Then ESR plays on the left-hand side. We don't have a lot. We don't have Europe. We have cup games, but really, we need to be trying to win those. And so with that, where's Pepe going to get this playing time from? A lot of people are saying, he needs to play on the left. As long as Kieran Tierney's playing, and Nuno Tavares, if we're honest, as long as we have an overlapping left back, he won't play on the left-hand side. He only really played there when Xhaka was there, playing more as a left-sided center back, and Cedric, and he's a right-footed left back. So it's one of those where I'm looking at it, I'm like, he's coming down to those last 2 years in his contract. I want to see what the club does, because keeping him doesn't make sense to me, even though I love him. You know what I mean? And if I'm him and I'm 27 years old, because you guys, he's not a youngster. I think we've been saying this on the channel for a while. He's not a youngster. Do I really want to be sitting behind Bukayo Saka? It's going to be important. I think it's really interesting to see where Pepe is going to get playing time from. We don't really care about Nketiah and Lacazette because they're running their deals down. But Pepe has 2 years left. I wonder what he's going to do, because he's going to have to fight Saka for that right wing position. I think Saka has pretty much decided that that's his.
I mean, there's that aspect to it. I think we're not good enough of a team to move on quite yet. I think we absolutely need him. He's absolutely needed as a sub. The big thing about a Pepe conversation is I think people ignore it's not Pepe versus Saka for me, because Saka starts regardless. He's our technical leader in the final third. That isn't the debate necessarily for me. It's who is the striker that we are pairing him with? Who is the striker in that frontline balance that we're going to do? Because I've said on this channel, I don't believe that Pepe and Auba both are able to operate in the same front line. I don't think that's it. And, when you start to look at really, Aubameyang in terms of his impact yesterday, And, by the way, doing way more Laka things, but also his general play, leading the press. He was a captain. It was just an amazing performance. And if he's going to be your striker, Pepe, for me, doesn't fit for a balance issue, especially with how we operate with Odegaard, Tomiyasu, and that right-hand corridor, really. I don't think that really operates well, because what you're going to have is Pepe's going to be wide, and that's not where he's effective. Like, on one token, I do want to give him some credit because, look, he's a good player, but not for our setup. And I just don't believe that we're going to see him necessarily flourish with us. I've long said that I think Pepe, for as much as I love Saka and, he's not my type of player, I think absolutely that you see a Pepe that flourishes in another system, in another league, personally. But that doesn't mean that he's a bad player. I just think that we need to get used to, as fans, that our team is becoming good again. And I've said this kind of on other streams where we had Wiltor, we had Kanu, we had amazing strikers that were on the bench. And, that doesn't mean that they're bad players. I did ask a question, a couple of weeks back in terms of, will we have finishers in the squad? For me, Pepe is a great option on tired legs. It's an excellent option on tired legs. Like, I don't know why that means that that's a bad or delineation of importance in the squad.
Because we're obsessed with dropping, like the words being dropped, not in favor. Yeah.
Because it's final.
Exactly. And I think Pepe is good off of the bench. And I also think he's somebody that needs games to warm up. So when I look at him and I'm like, is he somebody that could go a couple of games without playing and come in with instant impact? I'm not sure. But if he's getting cameos at the end of some Premier League games, getting some cup games, he can be good for us. And so when we have these conversations, it's important to understand that, like, I like to look at the whole picture. And that also includes age, contract length, how the team is being built. And people are asking questions about Martinelli as well. He's important to get some game time. Not having Europe is important to us because it gives us the ability to play our starting 11 as much as possible. That also means that there's players on the fringes that are going to suffer for that. And I think it's okay to have that conversation without it being, you hate Pepe, why don't you want to start him? It's going to be interesting to see where these players get playing time. And personally, for me, Martinelli is really important. And so I would like to see him get some playing time as well.
I think he falls in the. I want to be consistent here, Jess, because for me, I think we had this a little bit in the group chat where I'm like, okay, I actually don't think Martinelli gets a lot of game time because I just don't think profile-wise he's very similar in a sense to like the Pepe conundrum. Because look, at left wing, right, the left wing position is more of a facilitator in our system. So for me, if you're going to have Martinelli play at the left wing, then really you need to have an overload on the right, and we don't have that ability to afford it freedom along with Aubameyang. They just don't fit. So it's profile-wise, he doesn't fit with that type of striker. Now look, if we had a Lacazette or a Balogun or that type of striker to support a wing forwards, then cool. Then go with your Pepe and Martinelli mold. But just unfortunately, that's just not how we play, and that's not the plan A for how we play. And so does that mean that he's shit and he's no longer going to play? No. I think for me, Martinelli, it really depends on how you see him. I know people kind of disagree. I've always said he's a center forward. I really don't believe that he's a left wing long term. I haven't seen the tempo control. I haven't seen his ability to not run in straight lines with his head up. I feel that he puts his head down. I feel that when he's pressing people, I'd much rather him press center backs than full backs. I think his aerial ability and just his ability to find space in tight spaces, it's all suited towards a center forward. I just think he's young and we're making that transition for him. So for me, I'm really not pressed if he plays or he doesn't. This is the inconsistency of really young players, in my opinion. And I think we're just in a position right now where I feel as though Arteta knows his strongest 11. And I feel that we saw it kind of on the weekend. I think that's the best we've played as a team, period, bar maybe Wolves and Leeds, which were good performances, but I didn't see the amount of potency that I really saw with this performance. Now, did it tail off? Cool, yes, I understand that. But the peak performance for me was the highest it's been. So I'd like to see a run of games. And I think most people can agree, at least in the comments, if you see that Saka's excelling in this role and in this system, I think most people would agree not to change it. It just comes to, I think, you loving a player and that debate about whether that's more important than a team success. Because I feel as though he's a very good player that limits our best asset. I've said it before. on the same side of the pitch. And for me, I don't know if he's good enough to sacrifice that. I haven't seen an Alexis Sanchez level output for me to stomach the inconsistencies in his game. That's really where I stand on it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to put it. And as we go further and further into the season, we'll see what opportunities arise for these other players, these fringe players, to get playing time. And I want to see Pepe and Martinelli get the time over Lacazette and Nketiah. Like, I want to see that prioritization from Arteta, because I think it's important. But let's go back to the game a little bit. Souls, I have it written down as replacing weak links. You know, I think when you replace Leno with a Ramsdale and you replace a Tomiyasu, or you replace a Bellerin with a Tomiyasu, you're seeing us in a way that I feel like we haven't seen us in a while, which is stable, you know, confident, willing to do the hard work. And that's not to say that Bellerin and Leno are not good players, but I do think over the last maybe 12 months, we've seen some cracks within them where it's like, not quite sure about them. Leno in particular, and I think it was such a, I don't know, it was one of those moments where you're just like, wow, Hansi Flick is at the game and Leno is not playing. Like, if he's not playing and he doesn't make that World Cup squad, you know, if he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it could get peak for him really, really quickly. So George, I think we'll be talking about a goalkeeper conversation soon, you know, because I don't think he's going to stick around to be a number 2, but we replaced some of the weak links in our team. What do you think the benefit, just the first 3 games that we've seen these players play, of having Tomiyasu and Ramsdale on your team versus Leno and a Bellerin, Chambers, Cedric, that group?
For me, it's not even about quality. It's just about their mentality more than anything, because these guys, they want to play football. They want to listen to what the manager's saying. They're not going to dispute it. Like, I mean, that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing profiles now that fit the team. You know, people wanted Emerson, and, you know, I was kind of against the Emerson move. I said, I don't, as good as I think he'll be, I just think he'll be a Bellerin 2.0, where, yes, he'll give us a good attacking output, but then defensively, I just don't think he's that good. And so far at Tottenham, you know, we're kind of seeing he is being exposed. I watched him in La Liga, and that was the case there as well. Attackingly going forward, yes, he was brilliant. You know, he's arguably one of the best at doing that, in terms of just delivering crosses, in terms of just taking men on. But in terms of defensively, it's not so good. So when we look at our system, that is what we're struggling with. You know, the right backs are caught out of position, or they're constantly being overrun, and we're getting exposed on that side. Now with Tomiyasu coming in, and also you've got to look at, just before we brought in a right back, we brought in Ben White. Now, I'm not saying Ben White aerially isn't good, but that's not his forte. Like, he's not been signed to be that aerial duel battling, you know, sort of centre back. So you bring in someone like a Tomiyasu, and then when you look at Taney's weak point, it's aerially. Like, he's not going to sit there and, you know, take on like a striker that's a bit more physical. That's where you have Gabriel on that left-hand side, so you balance the team out. You've got 2 sweepers on both sides. You've got 2 aerial and battlers on both sides, and they complement each other. And then when you bring Ramsdale in, Ramsdale's bought in because he can command the box. Look, if we wanted a shot stopper, we've got that in Leno. I don't think Leno's a bad shot stopper. He's an elite-level shot stopper, and probably one of the best in the world at that. But what he lacks is the command in the box, and also the fact that he can't distribute the ball. And that's not me digging Leno out, but that's just me truly telling you what his limitations are. And that's something that we need in terms of how we play. We want to build up from the back. We want this risk-reward system where we play out the back, we break the press, and hopefully it leads to, you know, promising results, which we've seen against Spurs. You know, Ramsdale passes it to Xhaka, got pressed. But that doesn't happen if you don't have someone who's intelligent to make those passes, to get out of those situations. But on top of that, Ramsdale is also another elite shot stopper. And I've said it on so many podcasts, and I've gotten so much stick for it. I've said Ramsdale as a goalkeeper faced, you know, he was in the top 3 for shots faced, and he was the top 3 save percentages. That to me shows it's not his fault that they're conceding. He's saving a lot of the shots he's facing. So you can't really sit there and go, his shot stopping isn't great. Yes, there's a mistake in him. But I argued with the United fans, like, oh, but there's a mistake in De Gea. You're now going to call him shit? No, because what he does well he does well. But then, of course, every goalkeeper's going to have a howler in them. Alisson has them, Edison has them, De Gea has them, Lloris has them, Neuer has them, Ter Stegen has them, Oblak has them. Every top keeper is going to have a howler at some point. You're never going to make every single save, and that's the thing, and that's what people are pinpointing. But look at his mistakes. But look at this, and I'm like, well, look at what he does well. Of course, like now he's got a better defense in front of him, where maybe he's not facing as many shots, but the shots he's facing, he's saving. Bar that Leno, okay, yeah, he could have done better. But you know what he said after the game? I'm disappointed because I didn't keep a clean sheet. And he said, what did he say before he joined the club, or as he joined the club? I'm here to rip Leno's shirt off the back of him. And what has he done? Do we want Leno back? Do we even miss Leno? No. And this is what happens when you have profiles that fit the system that you're trying to play. That's all it is for me. It's not even about the quality of the player. It's simply the mentality, and the profile just simply fits. And what we need and what we were lacking in this team has just come together. It's like, it's like Pepe. It's like the Pepe conversation. It's a piece of the puzzle that just doesn't fit, but you just somehow need to fit it in. That's what it was with Bellerin or Chambers, and that's what it was with Leno. We just didn't have anything else. But now we've got someone who just fits the puzzle, and he fixes issues in this team. And that's for me what it is. It's not even about weaklings, because as players, yeah, they're good, but they just don't suit the system. And that's why we've got in players like a Tomiyasu who fits the system, who can break the press, who can play with 2 feet, angles. And the thing is, he's yet to be dribble past. Yesterday as well, aerially dominant as well. And that's all it is for me. We've lacked that. We always used to concede from set pieces. Pre-season and friendlies, we were we were basically conceding every set piece we had. Now we're not, because that's what players do. They make you better, and that's all it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the Leno thing is, I think everyone has some different opinions on the priority, at least of the summer, whether or not that was big or not. But I think one thing that it absolutely shows you is kind of the impact of what starting from the back does, especially for our team, right? Like, the one thing I will say with Arteta's system is, as much as I really like it and I think it's modern, positional play like this is restricted in terms of how it can work, right? And a goalkeeper is absolutely crucial to these teams implementing this like positional play, or the jugo de posición that everyone likes to contact. Like, that theory of football, it's so limited by a keeper that can't build up. And so for us, it was a crucial fixture kind of to do. But you know which game I really highlight for people if you really want to see where I think Mikel lost his faith? It was West Ham. West Ham last season was the exact reason that we really lost those games. There were other instances where, he shirked responsibilities. But for me, West Ham was the epitome of us going 3-0 down because of Leno being scared and, him just booting the ball up. And then, we had to change systems completely in order to really get the second balls, because we knew that Leno would just ignore really philosophy and go long. And so I just think that on this debate, it's really quite simple. Ramsdale, a lot of narrative was said, popular vote about, what his quality is. We kind of on this channel spoke about his level and the realistic objective kind of change. I just think that boy is gonna change a lot of opinions. I mean, you can already see them swaying, but just, he's such a likable character. And I hate to go into those sides, but I think this squad is likable. They're becoming likable. Yeah. And in my opinion, that connection with the fans is important. Souls, earlier in the show, you talked about Tomiyasu beating, with Ramsdale, getting that chemistry off of, a really good play between the two. I find that's important, not just in the squad, but kind of for us fans to see, is there a commitment and buy-in from the players? And I think when you see those two things, and you see a player like Ramsdale who seems to celebrate like he's a fan, it just makes you feel better. Like, I don't really have any big tactical things to say there. Just like,
yeah, it makes a difference.
It does.
Makes yeah, especially because I try to explain it. I just feel like the team hasn't been very likable over the last couple years. It just hasn't. It's a bunch of players that divide opinion, which divides the fan base further. And I like that we can kind of come together on certain players and just say, you know what, I like that guy. And for a while, it was just our Haaland guys. Everybody loves Saka, everybody loves ESR. Now it's players that we brought in. And I know it's still early days, but it does make a difference. And there are other aspects other than what is the style of play? Are we winning? Are we doing this? There's other factors of being a fan of a football club. And I think just liking the players at the bare minimum feels really good. I remember going through a period of time where I just didn't like the players because I didn't feel like they were Arsenal players. I thought they were guys that had come from other leagues and came for a paycheck, and it showed, and so it was really difficult to get behind those guys. But I do love like that Ramsdale wants to have a relationship with the fans behind him in the goal. I love those things, but what I really like is just the way that he commands his box, the way he organizes his defenders, and he just fits. Leno, I hate to say it, like, and Yo-Yo said this, like, and this is the moment that I lost faith in Leno, was against Olympiacos in Arteta's first year in Europa League. I thought the way that he just kicked the ball out instead of kicking it down the field or into the stands, he kicked it out for a corner. And that corner ended up becoming a goal, and we lost that game. Aubameyang did all of that overhead kick, and we celebrated and all that just for you to bottle it. And I lost all faith in him from that moment on. I know he's a good shot stopper, but sometimes your career just ends at a certain place. And that's perfectly fine. I think Leno is at a crossroads where he doesn't trust the way that Arteta wants to play, and so he's protecting himself. So mid-game, when we have things that we're trying to do that he has to take a risk, he doesn't want to take the risk. He wants to kind of save himself because Leno wants a move. Leno wants to make the World Cup squad. So Leno is protecting himself instead of doing what the manager wants him to do. And George, you've even said that in certain press conferences, if you read between the lines, Arteta said as much, that the guy's just not doing what I'm saying to do. And it's very telling that the game that Ramsdale was available and we could get him into the team, he became the number one. And I always thought he'd be that. And I'm glad I'm on the right side of this, because I feel like a lot of people are going to have to eat, their words. There were a lot of very bad things said about Ramsdale before he even stepped foot on the pitch for Arsenal. And so I'm loving the guy. I really am. And Tomiyasu as well. George, do you want to say something?
Can I just quickly say
something? Go ahead, Sol.
I was going to say that even when you look at the Man City, I know we got absolutely pammed, but that's the first time I've seen the whole team take the initiative to clap the fans. It wasn't like, usually what happens is like one of the players is like, why are you guys walking into the dressing room? No, come thank them. But this time I didn't see that. I didn't see like, I don't know, I can't even remember who played. Like, I didn't see Saka drag the players. No, all of them just took the initiative as a team, not just an individual came over, so everyone else came over. They all stayed on the pitch and actually clapped the fans and apologized and said that, look, we know it's a bad performance, and took the stick. And that's a change. And, I've not seen at Arsenal for such a long time. Normally, it's like Xhaka or Bellerin used to come over and then the team would follow. But everyone else was like heading towards the tunnel. But because Xhaka and Bellerin are there clapping the fans and taking the stick, that's when the other players would come in. So I think there is an improvement. There is that sort of, I don't know what the right word would be, but that loyalty to the fans. And you could see yesterday, this was a performance. Forget about Arteta, but that was a performance for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, look, on Leno, the amount of quote tweets that I received for kind of my analysis in terms of, just he is a guy that makes early decisions. He claims early aerial crosses. He's got an elite ball that's clipped wide. We've seen it so many times. And while he doesn't lack centrality in terms of his passing range, he does struggle to do it consistently. And look, we saw a little bit of a blip. I don't think Xhaka's pass was excellent, in terms of that second goal. Xhaka really helps him out. Like, he'll struggle with that. But in terms of just the objective evaluation really on him as a player, I've always felt it was ridiculous. But I think it came down to really the Emile debate. It really represented, whether or not Emile was, Mikel's decision. I really feel as though, personally, there's been a lot of whitewashing about past events in terms of what is Mikel's decision, because really when you look at Ramsdale and his profile, I don't think you can question that's his type of goalkeeper. And I really struggle to understand the narrative that, Emile wasn't promised game time and how that whole came to be, because you can see in terms of what Mikel has done through his actions that Ramsdale is in. He maintains his spot.
Can I say on the Emile thing quickly? What was said, it was behind the doors. I was speaking to someone who's quite involved in the club and knows a few agents as well. And what was said was, Arteta promised him 90% up. Chances are you're going to start for me. I'm not giving no one in this club, no one in this squad 100% certainty. And he goes, if you perform, you stay. If you don't perform, you're dropped. And Emile didn't want that. Emile said, I want a certainty, 110% certainty I'm your number one. And he didn't want to fight for it.
Which is ridiculous. And it's just, I go back to say that I think that's the mentality focus that we really accepted. That's the hit that, Mikel has taken in terms of advancing the culture of the club. And I'm going to loop it back because I think Leno doesn't have this mentality. And I don't think it's just Leno. I've seen it with Granit. I've praised him, but, he removes responsibility. I've seen it with Mustafi. Like, these players, the reason that we haven't, they vacate their zones, or when in times of trouble, they just say, it's not my fault. And they give the ball away. And whether that's Leno, Xhaka, Mustafi in different areas of the pitch, they're just known for that type of mentality, where I think this is the transition that we're noticing. So not only is the philosophy a check, but we're seeing the mentality. And look, I think that those soft factors, they do have a connection, Jess. Like, I hate going on that. I feel like on this channel we talk about tactics, but that alignment in terms of matching the culture that you want to have in a club, it gives you power. And I just think that Mikel, his window, that was good.
Oh, jeez.
Big crack.
Go ahead.
Big dubs, but I think that that's emblematic, really, of his change in the club. And I think this is what we're going to see in terms of recruitment. I think he set the platform in terms of what we're willing to accept and what we're not willing to accept. So, yeah, I'm really excited. And I think, look, he is a lot more ruthless than I think people questioned, right? I think a lot of people were worried. I don't know about you guys, but everyone that I talked to was like, there's no way Ramsdale is starting. There's no way that Tomiyasu is starting. There's no way that they keep their places. I think we've seen a ruthlessness and just a commitment to philosophy that we can think, okay, you know what? There's a plan and it's sturdy. He's not wavering. And I feel in this area of the process, this is what most fans wanted to see in his second year, right? Like a commitment to a philosophy without wavering. And I want to see a style of play, whether or not I agree with it or not. But that's probably something that we want to see, and we're seeing it.
All right, you guys, let's have the bigger conversation. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but this had kind of come up earlier, and I saw it going around on Twitter and stuff. And I think it's okay to kind of touch on it a little bit before we get out of here. But what does Arteta need to do to be safe? This is the beginning of something. I feel like it is. And I'm prepared for us to still lose games and stuff like that. But we kind of talked about this before. I've kind of been thinking about it since we've been talking. George, you kind of already touched on, for you need to continue to see us playing in this way, performances and that kind of stuff. But I want to ask the chat. There's about 150 of you guys watching on all platforms. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. But let me know what you think Arteta needs to do for you to feel like, okay, he's safe. I think ultimately he's pretty safe. We're building a team around him and his philosophy, and that's pretty clear. Some of the players that he brought in are specific for him. But I think being an Arsenal manager, there's always a little bit of yeah, but if you F up, you're going to have to go. And so we have Leeds, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa. What do you expect to see in those games from a performance standpoint, maybe a result standpoint? What do you need to see in those games for you to feel like, I feel confident in Mikel Arteta moving forward? There's been a lot of Arteta outs to Arteta ins in these last couple of games. That makes a lot of sense because the everyday fan doesn't need to be balanced, rational, overthink it. Where fans go through the roller coaster and 1 minute you're in, 1 minute you're out. So I expect that. But on this channel, what I want to know is for you, what's the bare minimum? What's the bare minimum? I think that'll take us, after those 3 games, we will have had 9 games, right, George?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be right on the cusp of that 10-game kind of threshold that you had spoken about. So I do want to know in the chat box what you guys think about that. And I want to ask Souls, because I know George has kind of already touched on what he wants to see. He already kind of said 10 games, style of play, consistent, starting that kind of thing. What do you want to see, Souls, for you to feel confident in what we're doing?
I mean, if he has football Twitter, he needs to win the Champions League, the World Cup. He then needs to win the Euros. He'll need to win the Premier League. He'll need to go win La Liga. No, I'm only joking. Like for me, like for what he needs to do is just put a string of wins together. I think for me, if he wants to change the narrative of this club, he needs to beat Brighton, because time and time again we've had a big result, and then the following week we lose. We've seen it after, like, United, for example. We went on that horrific run of bad games. We've seen it when we've beaten like the likes of Chelsea. You know, we'll lose the next game. We'll do a lot of undoing of the good work that we've done. Now we've got 3 on the bounce in the Premier League. Obviously, we lost our first 3. Now we've won. You know, the next 3. What he needs to do is beat the likes of Brighton, beat the likes of Palace, and then again Villa we've struggled to. So I'll see how I feel about that one. But for me, the performances need to be better than what we've seen against Chelsea, Brentford, and City. I just want to see a performance at a minimum, because in those games, I just didn't see anything. I didn't see anything positive that I could sit there and go, you know what, actually this, that. No, I didn't see anything. And I think that needs to change. But I think because he's got his 11, and as long as he's not missing too many of those key players, he needs to get performances and results out of them. I think, obviously, when we touch on it, we've got Brighton next week, obviously. That's a must-win for me, because so far the only player he might be missing is Xhaka. Everyone else seems to still be fit. I mean, he can drop players if he needs to, bring in Lacazette, Martinelli, and Pepe instead, if that's what he wants to do, just to rest a few players. But then after that, we've got the international break anyway, and then we return to play Crystal Palace. I think for me, he needs to get a result out of that, and a result out of Aston Villa. And maybe, you know, out of the 3, I'd say maybe 7 out of 9 points minimum. Like, I think 2 wins and a draw, just because they are games we should be winning if we're looking at a top 6, top 4 finish. And ultimately, I just want to see us have an opportunity of finishing in the top 4 throughout the season. Because even right now, there is I'm not saying we will before people go on a madness and think. I'm saying we'll finish top 4.
But you're saying, like, with the numbers wise, yeah. I get what you're saying.
Points in touching this, because the thing is, right, this is how I look at it. If we look at last season, we went on that poor run, but we're still, what was it, about 4 points off top 4 or something like that?
6
or like
points, but yeah,
6 points. Sorry, off top 4. That's okay. That's not like, you know, you'll be like, all right, okay, cool. And then, but what I want to see now is like, okay, we're in the top 6, but we're like. But there's still an opportunity that we could have gotten into top 4. That's what I want to see this season, is for us to be a bit more competitive and beat the teams we should be beating, because we've got no European competition. We're not playing midweek. That's what I think we keep forgetting. We're not playing in the Champions League, so we can now sit there, fully prepare for Brighton. And then when we come back from the international break, our only focus is Crystal Palace. We don't have to think about, oh yeah, we've got a Champions League game. Like Man City, for example, have to think about PSG and then playing Liverpool, and then they have to play Chelsea on the weekend. We don't have to do that. United have to play Villarreal, and then I can't remember who they play on the weekend.
No, Everton, crazy.
So we don't have that. We don't have that barrier where we need to now go, oh, you know what?
We do have 2 in a week, though, don't we? Didn't they give us a madness schedule kind of thing?
It was stupid. They gave us like a Monday and a Saturday thing.
Yeah, some stupidness. I mean, we still should be fine, but you know what I mean.
But the thing is that we're not having to then go, okay, we need to play a squad against this team because we need to win a cup game.
Yeah, there's no travel as well, right?
We're not in that situation. So I think it's going to benefit him. And I think, but for me, the narrative now needs to change. Now we've got a big performance. I can't see a drop off against Brighton. And I think...
I love this comment. I love that comment. You know what? We'll get top 4. I just want to be diluted at least until Christmas. Yes,
guys, you guys say that. Look, it's online for. I'm not going to hide. I've said that we will get top 4, and I've had it in my predictions. I mean, it's back on my own channel. I mean, there's nothing to hide from that. I think if you're going to ask from me about what Arteta needs for other people, because I'm very much in that not weird, but I'm in that belief that I believe in the man. And I think he's absolutely the one to take us forward. And he's a very special manager for us. But what I think for other people maybe to get a little bit more on my side, I don't think anyone will ever swing this way unless he delivers top 4, is absolutely...
Swing my way. Okay, I'm sorry. That just made me think of that song. Oh my gosh. Okay, go.
But I guess to like swing over to like my side of the fence, it's just consistency, right? In performances, like you don't get top 4 without beating the teams outside the top 6, and we just weren't consistent in terms of running more than 3 or 4 wins on the bounce against those types of teams. So you do that, you gain a lot more support. I still don't think it's really revolutionary, because I feel as though that we're gonna see a very good run of form, and we predicted it a couple weeks. So I'm not surprised. It's just, in my opinion, it's going to be bumpy. I think you're going to see an odd draw. I think we've got 6 games that are very winnable beyond Liverpool in our next 6 fixtures, right? And so I think there's going to be a surprise draw within those fixtures. But I think for the most part, if you're going to look at it as a whole, we're going to get wins in pretty much all of them. But again, that just is what fans, I think, need to see, right? So if you get that consistency, then cool. I think for my one question to you guys...
You're not mad. You're actually not mad, because the thing is, we were 6 points off top 4 last season in our worst season. And don't forget, we had a spell from, what was it, like October to November, where we just didn't win anything. Mm-hmm. So if that, for me, that's not going to happen. We're not going to have a span of eight games, was it? I think 6 to 8 games where we lost every single one of them. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, and I look, I just don't think, I mean, to address Yo-Yo, I mean, the reasons for that are totally on my channel. I mean, you can go see it if you want, Ball Over Passion. But I mean, look, we're starting to see a lot of the cracks that, I predicted with United, and I just don't see it going away with their run of form. I went big in terms of being very concerned about United. And I mean, look, just to get it back to us, because I think the big question is this Arteta debate. I think by Christmas, if we're within shouts of top 4, and what I mean by that is probably 3 or 4 points, I don't think many people are against the man continuing the rest of the season. I don't want to speak for everybody in the chat. Maybe that's different.
No, I said that. I said we just need to be in touching distance. Like, if we get it, obviously even better. But like, if we're like 3 points where we're like, okay, you know what, this still, because
we're competitive.
Even after Christmas, we're playing the likes of United, Liverpool, Chelsea, still. So if we get a result out of that, we just leapfrog. Leapfrog them, and then we just need to maintain that consistency going forward. We're one of the lucky teams that don't have Europe that can get top 4.
Yeah, I would say top, I'm still tops. I want to be in the top 6, which would be within touching distance of top 4, but I'm not really fussed about top 4. I think for me, I'm a little bit different than George. I feel as though we're a player too shy of that. I just think we're a little bit off in quality, but top 6 would make Jessica a happy girl. I really would take it.
I don't want Champions League football. I don't think we're ready for it.
Well, I mean, I get what
conversation.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess for me, what I would like to see is top 6 consistently throughout the season. I would like us to get through these next couple games, get into the top 6, and then kind of continue that all the way through the rest of the season, be very, very competitive. And one of the things I do want to see that wouldn't make me say oh my gosh, Arteta out. But what I would like to see is when we play Liverpool, can we touch the ball?
Yeah,
can we touch the ball?
Yes.
When we play against Aston Villa, can we score? Can we score a goal? We haven't scored against them in 3 meetings. I just want to see us be very, very competitive. And I think when we do compete, actually compete, we're hard to beat. But when we don't compete, we look really bad, So I feel as though in these next games, I would expect us to beat Brighton, watch them today, didn't think shit of them. Watch Crystal Palace, didn't think anything of them really. No, I love Patty, but we need to pay on Patty. We do. And
unfortunately, I think that's going to be a scary game for him. I'm not going to lie. If you look, it's a 4-1-4-1 press, and if he does that against us with our build-up quality, you can get away with that with Brighton, who don't have Basuma, by the way, which is a huge miss. But you do that against us, and you're going to be in trouble. I mean, look at Tottenham. Sorry.
Yeah. What's wrong with Basuma?
He's got a knee issue. It was he wasn't in.
He wasn't in.
I hope he's faking it just not to play us.
Yeah. So there's that, and then I think Aston Villa is the game that I'm really looking at. They're a team that I feel matches us up pretty well. They're very intense. One of the things that I like about the way Aston Villa plays, they're really intense. But I saw that we could do the exact same thing if we really want to. So that's going to be a very interesting game. And of course, Leeds in the Cup. I want us to smack them up. The last time that we played them, we smacked them, and it felt good. It felt so good.
You don't like Leeds.
I can't stand Leeds.
I don't like Leicester.
I can't stand Leeds. So that's what I really would like to see, but I think it's doable. I think it's doable. Once you see the way that we played against, the Scum and the other 2 games, we can win ugly. We could win away from home against bullies in a low block. We can win against teams that want to come out and play us. So
is it here? I'm going to have a question because look, a couple of weeks ago, it was a 1 game a week process with the manager. Have we moved on from that? Is there enough credit in the bank from the way that we've played in the short term to say we can now expect a 3-game run? Or do you still think it's about a game by game assessment?
For me, it was very much touch and go after those 3 games that we lost because I was very scared about the dressing room. Now I feel like I want to do like 3-game chunks. I feel like that's the best way to do it. Like now I'm looking at these next 3 games plus the Carabao Cup game and then kind of look and see what happens from there, see how many points we get. I think he has earned, because proof of concept, style of play, you got your guys, they're looking like what they're supposed to look like. So we know the recruitment has been decent so far, and the guys are playing for you. Aubameyang and Partey are very important. Xhaka, as much as some people don't like him, he's important to this. And if they're invested, I feel good. If they're not invested, I'm scared because we actually can't do anything with this youth project without senior players invested in it. There's no way, so
that was my guess because when I look at the City, Chelsea, and even the Brentford, when you take context into it, obviously we know why this has happened, but it really did look like all the players playing for him. That was a realistic question to ask. I don't think it was such a stupid question or a reactive question to ask.
No, agreed.
Because it looked very deflated. It looked very deflated, and I was like, oh, but then, like I said, when you look at Burnley, when you look at the likes of when we played Norwich, and obviously Spurs, that's not a team that doesn't want to play for them. They celebrated together. We started to see actually no, the dressing room is there. And I've said it. All I'm gonna say, right, we're winning the game if Aubameyang is smiling. If his swagger's there, we're winning. And I said it. I said to Jet, his smile's there. He's cooking this team. And what did he do? He cooked this team.
Yeah, that's gonna be. We'll talk at the end of the season on Auba because he's been good. I don't want to just look at it at form wise.
No, if he smiles, we're winning. That's my indication. I don't even care about how we line up. If Aubameyang smiles, yeah.
I think Brighton is a good. I think Yo-Yo brought up a good point. I just saw that comment.
Team in form.
Yeah, team in form in perfect conditions. I disagree. I push back with you, Jess, on it, but I think Brighton would be a great way to look at that platform, right? Because I think Xhaka will be gone. It isn't perfect conditions, and it's a team in form, right? Like regardless of Bissouma, they are I think they're 4th now? Is it of the table?
Or right, yeah, the fourth.
Are they?
Oh no, there might be no.
Were they just above? Because they tied, I think.
Hold
now.
On.
I don't know where that puts
they're
them.
in 6th.
Yeah,
they're in 6th. Yeah. So what? They're a point off the top 4 or 2 points there. Like they're
1.
But actually, to be fair, the level on points up until 2nd. Liverpool are the only ones with 14 points. Everyone else is 13.
So there you go. So I guess my big point was they're a team in form. They're up there amongst those top teams in the league. I know they're not traditional, but they are in form up there. So very good team to face. And let's see kind of what he does. And also, by the way, just really quickly, I think Lukunga, this is going to be a great test for him because we've seen sparing assessments. And I think we can start to see the level of this guy because, look, I have a little bit of concerns off the ball, but I think Brighton, is going to be an excellent test in the middle, especially with their big monsters and, Webster, Dunk, Bissouma, who I think will be back. Like, that's going to be excellent to see how he handles the midfield battle. I know Partey will be there to help him, but I think it'll be a really good way to have a look at him to see those off-the-ball concerns. How big are they?
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be some interesting tests coming up, but at least we have something to be excited about. I do think that watching those games, like the last 3 games, you have something to be excited about. I'm actually going to, when I get off of here, clip up some of the watch along, our goal celebrations and all of that. Spoiler alert, like the whole goal celebration was Souls celebrating and me going, oh my God, did we score? Oh my God, we score. And he took too long to tell me. I was like, just say yes. Like, you know what I mean?
I ruined it, but I was trying not to ruin it, but I was like, I've ruined it, but in my head, I didn't ruin it.
Yes, and then when he would be like, oh my gosh, I'm like, did we lose? So it's a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and clip that stuff up and put it up on socials for more gloating because the party's not over for me. I'm definitely going to rewatch the game again. Tomorrow we have Tactical Tuesday for members. Consider joining as a member if you want to be a part of the more in-depth tactical discussions. It's with a smaller group, and we really go into depth. So we'll have our screenshots, and we'll go through it. And laugh at how bad Spurs midfield actually was and see it visually with your own eyes in still form. It's
Did you see that Odegaard chance when like Ndombele is kind of on the wing and like he's just jogging, and then Højbjerg, like they're both like 2 yards apart. I think it was on the Monday Night Football chat, and it's just like we're breaking with 3 guys. I'm like, oh, this guy is just so fat, isn't he? Like he just can't get his way around.
I mean, at this point, I know people think Ndombele is like super good, and I do think he's quite skillful, but he's pretty much a compilation baller at this point, where you look at him on compilation and you think, oh, such a baller, but then you see him playing, you're like, he can't run, you know. So what's
all the talent, no application.
Yeah, so we'll go over that tomorrow. So yeah, you guys consider becoming a member. The link is in the description box for that, and if you're not a member, don't worry. I'm back on Wednesday, and I actually have a special show where we're going to be talking about the Arsenal women and the academy in one show to get a catch up on what's going on with the other teams in Arsenal Football Club. So that should be interesting because the Arsenal women are freaking killing it. Talk about that. Patino. We'll talk about Aziz as well because he had his debut and he looked quite good. Just talk about those types of things.
Number 10, weirdly.
Yeah, number 10. And so I'll have something every single day of the week this week. So, yep. All right, you guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider sharing with a friend. Get in the comment section. Let us know what you guys thought. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.